Let me address the issue of a nurse who was part of the demonstration. My attention was drawn to it yesterday. I was in the constituency, so my attention was drawn to it, and then the ministry issued a press release to that effect. I do not want to sound as though I want to encourage indiscipline in the sector, but I think that I wish I was not the one at the center of this issue. I wish that a nurse or a health professional has been called to answer how maybe he or she has mistreated or mishandled a client or a patient, and not about the minister. I am a public servant, and if His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is your president, you must always look up to him. The Thank you very much, May. This is going to be a straightforward and a very simple engagement. I cannot even get any place to put my paper. Anyway, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media. This is going to be a very short engagement, and I want to use this opportunity to brief all of you on some of the difficult challenges we inherited as government, and not to lament or complain, but to tell you what we have done about those challenges. I know that the public interest in the issues of health is very high, rightly so, because it is very essential for our survival. Ladies and gentlemen, in January 2025, when we took office as government, in the Ministry of Health, we inherited a situation where about 13,500 nurses and midwives had been recruited and posted without financial clearance, without any provision to pay them. In fact, the financial clearance with respect to the 13,500 nurses and midwives expired on 31st December 2024. What it means is that when a financial clearance is issued, you must necessarily migrate the health professionals onto the payroll before the expiration of the clearance or the financial clearance. So, if it expires, what it means is that there's no financial provision for these people. This is a fact. And so we had two options as government. Whether to let all the 13,500 nurses and midwives go home whilst we look for the financial provision, we look for money. And issuing clearance is not just for issuing sake. Once you are issuing the clearance, you must be ready to pay them. And so the first option was to allow all of them to go home whilst we look at how we can get money to call them back. And so if you remember, it was a topical issue when we took office that we're going to sack some health professionals. So some of the associations even reacted to this. And the second option was to allow them to continue to work once we look at how we can get money to pay them. And I'm talking about 13,500 nurses and midwives. So as government, we chose the latter because we cannot allow the 13,500 people to go home and add on to the over 74,000 health professionals who have already been trained and they are at home. And to tell you the truth, I have never regretted that we chose the option of allowing them to work and finding ways to pay them. When we chose that option, we didn't go to sleep. This is what we have done. Out of the about 13,500, as I speak to you, about 7,000 out of the 13,500 are being paid. They are on the payroll and they are being paid. Here, let me further explain that in actual fact, those that we have succeeded in putting them on the payroll are about 10,000. But out of the 10,000, 7,000 of them are being paid, and 3,000 though on the payroll, but they are not being paid. So you will hear situations like, yes, I am on the payroll, but I'm not being paid. That is why I'm giving you this explanation. So 7,000 are being paid. Ladies and gentlemen, issues of salaries and monuments as a ministry, we must necessarily collaborate with the Ministry of Finance. We cannot do it alone. And so we have an outstanding of 6,500 nurses and midwives whilst we were taking steps to onboard all these people onto the payroll and get them paid. So don't forget, out of the 10,000, some 3,000 have not been paid, and about 3,500 have also not been put on the payroll at all. So making 6,500. Especially so when that was not the only difficult situation we inherited. So anytime you go to the Ministry of Finance, it is about putting another weight on the public purse. I'll give you examples. We had health professionals who had completed their housemanship, and some of them doing their housemanship without clearance in 2024. So we successfully collaborated with the Ministry of Finance to get about 883 of these officers getting clearance so that they can get their allowances. You recently heard some junior doctors threatening to go on strike. They have started work without clearance, without salaries, without pay. Again, we collaborated with the Ministry of Finance, and as I speak to you now, we have succeeded in getting them clearance and they are being migrated onto the payroll. We had about 800 medical doctors who had finished their housemanship, but they were still at home without clearance. As I speak to you now, the Ministry of Finance has issued clearance, and all these medical doctors are going to start work with immediate effect. And with this one, our priority areas are in the rural areas. So it was not only the issue of the 13,500 nurses and midwives. There were pharmacists who had completed their housemanship as far back from 2023 to 2024 who had not been paid. We inherited that. And those people have been paid. I am telling you what we inherited and what we have done about them and what we are doing about them. We had more than 17,000 rotational nurses, allied health professionals who also didn't have clearance as far as their rotation was concerned. By the grace of God, we have secured clearance for these more than 17,000 health professionals. That was not the only thing. There were issues about conditions of service. You've heard them before. And so we had to onboard them gradually because you agree with me that we also have a country to govern. Ladies and gentlemen, as I speak to you now, that about 6,500, that will add up to the 7,000 already being paid, making 13,500. That allowance, that's over 6,000. Cabinet has approved that with immediate effect, starting from November, the Minister for Finance must pay them. In my hand, the letter to that effect. And so these were the difficulties. I empathize with anybody who had to go through this painful situation. But it is important for Ghanaians to be taken along. And so I think at this point, I will want to pause here. If you have any clarity to seek, I will do that accordingly. I thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, so members of the media, the Honorable Minister is all set for you. If you have some questions begging for answers, you want to seek.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I am in the person of Stephen Kwajosechia, the convener for the Coalition of Unpaid Nurses and Midwives. And I commend you and your high office for this prompt intervention of the situation. And I stand on my leadership and the entire membership to commend you and say a very big thank you. We need this clarification from your office. The statement you made that Cabinet has approved that by November we should be paid. We want to know the modalities of the payment. Is it everyone who is going to be paid in November, or the payment is going to start in November? And when is it going to finish that everyone is going to be paid? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Minister, thank you so much for the great work. My name is Reverend Denisana Wiki. I'm the Executive Secretary of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. And so, of course, my question will border on pharmacies. Currently, we have about 640 plus um, pharmacy graduates, pharmacy graduates who wrote the professional exams in 2024 and have been placed on the provisional pharmacy register, awaiting their 1 year housemanship, after which then they will be placed on the permanent register. It's been a year and they are apprehensive. I will gladly want to hear that the financial clearance has been agreed by cabinet to be given for their postings. And also those that have finished their housemanship from 2020 but haven't been employed. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
In your speech, I heard you saying that cabinet has approved for you to start paying is 6,500 in November. Please, is it going to be in the arrears or how is it? And also, we have some of our colleagues who have passed away. I mean, they've died without their salaries. How are you going to attend to that too? Thank you very much.
I think let's be more
So, our media friends,
so that we are going to.
Hello, my name is Raf from Gold Coast TV. My question is, Honorable Minister, we've noticed that in our health system, from let me see the 90s, nurses, doctors have to demonstrate before they.
As for demonstrations and strikes, it's their right to. So nobody can stop anybody from demonstrating. That's the first response I can give to this one. It is my responsibility as a minister to let the public understand the issues. As for how you take it, will be entirely your option. These issues, everybody here will agree with me that this is not the first time I'm having the opportunity to explain some of these issues. But we have a country to govern. And so I will do my best under the circumstances to serve Mother Ghana. His Excellency the President, John Dramani Mahama, is so committed to the health sector. You all recall, and the nurses will bear me out, that immediately we took office, there was a fiat to allow everybody who was employed after 7 December to go home. Am I the only person who heard it? But His Excellency said that should not be applicable in the health sector. And so we will do our best under the circumstances. The first question was from the convener. I hope in my attempt to answer this question, I'll not be a drama king. Anyway, so in actual fact, everybody, if I say everybody, the only gap is the 6,000 something. The 7,000 are already being paid. So what it means is that by November, all the 13,500 nurses and midwives will be paid. Everybody. So this is the last batch of how we're staggering it. And so we'll migrate, we'll onboard all the 6,000 something for them to be fully paid. So let me answer that question. Let me tie in this question with the issue of arrears. Yes, so the regular payment will start from November, but we'll issue how we are going to pay the arrears. The arrears will be paid. It's work you have done, and we'll make sure that you are paid accordingly. And the issue of the pharmacist. Ordinarily, these pharmacists should have started their housemanship. These pharmacists completed their course in 2024. Now, if you allow them to work without financial clearance, okay, we'll witness what we are seeing at the moment. And so there is the need for us to give them financial clearance before they start the housemanship. And I can assure you, it was part of what we discussed at Cabinet, and Cabinet has approved that that too must be cleared as soon as possible. I think these were the questions asked. So if I'll take that is a very difficult question. So how the debt will be paid, we have to maybe think through it and see how the debt will be paid. But that will be a very difficult situation. So maybe we'll reflect on that and see what the law says with regards to that. If it's a mini tree, so I should do the tree before I take the next batch, or let me finish with the English before I come and take the next batch. Let me finish the English. Is that so? Okay. So, any more questions? You can stand there, and I can. Yes, you can stand there and answer them. Inherit what the situation was and what we have done and what we are doing. We'll be having series of these engagement. You see, it is always very important to allow Ghanaians to know what is happening and what you are doing, so that it will not be misconstrued as though you have come to create the situation. We don't want to lament. We want to tell Ghanaians their solutions we are preferring. So, if there is no clarification, I'll proceed to seek. I'll proceed to. You want to ask a question? Yes.
Okay, thank you. So my question is from your experience so far as the head of the health ministry, is it
A sensitive ministry. It has to do with your health, and so you can see the high public interest, and I'm enjoying it. If for nothing at all, by the time I finish my tenure, people would have helped me to identify a lot of my talents, from farmer to drama king to what have you. But it's a very sensitive ministry, and I am enjoying it, and that has been my life since I was born. And so it's a pleasure serving your people in this capacity. We will do our best, but it is important to fill the vacuum so that people will not misinform Ghanaians. This is what we are seeking to do. Once Ghanaians appreciate the challenge, they will also appreciate what you are doing about it. And so for me, it's a sensitive ministry, and it has direct correlation with our survival and even productivity as a country. So that is why people are so much interested, and it's a very big ministry as well. So I'm enjoying it, to tell you the truth. I am enjoying it. Yeah. Any other question? Yeah. Report on any shortcut. What I have mandate to communicate to you is what I have done, and I wish we will leave it there. Yes. Let me address the issue of a nurse who was part of the demonstration. My attention was drawn to it yesterday. I was in the constituency, so my attention was drawn to it, and then the ministry issued a press release to that effect. I do not want to sound as though I want to encourage indiscipline in the sector, but I think that I wish I was not the one at the center of this issue. I wish that a nurse or a health professional has been called to answer how maybe he or she has mistreated or mishandled a client or a patient, and not about the minister. I am a public servant, and if His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is your president, you must always look up to him. Freedom of speech, your right to demonstrate, divergent opinion are some lieutenants His Excellency the President upholds so high. And so you cannot be his appointee and frown on those things. And so I have absolutely nothing against anybody who demonstrates. But of course, as I stated earlier on, let us do that responsibly. And so I'll urge the Director General of the Ghana Health Service to temper justice with mercy. This is not to encourage anybody to act irresponsibly. But I think that this should not engage our attention. What is important is how we will solve the issues, the challenges we have inherited. That should be the focus and not these tangentials. I would also not want to sound as though I am condemning those who want to uphold professionalism and discipline in the sector. No, I will not do that. But with the greatest of respect. We have done this work for more than 25 years. We've gone through, the extreme. We've gone through worse things than this. But once you are determined to serve your people, some of these things are simply not avoidable. You meet them. And by the grace of God, I have the skill to accommodate some of these things. And so, subsequently, it was over the weekends, I will engage the Director General on phone and then try to appeal to him to. That doesn't stop any measures they are taking with respect to other things or any disciplinary actions they are taking in the sector or what have you. But I do not want it to be said that as though somebody openly expressed his or her opinion and she's being gagged, and you know how people will read meanings into this, and that will divert their attention from the good things we are doing. We are determined, we are resolute, we are focused to fix the challenges we have inherited as part of the resetting agenda. I thank you so very much for the opportunity. I hope I've clarified every. Hey, man. Uh-huh.
My name is Alberta Aite. I'm representing the rotational nurses in Ghana. So we want to thank you for your intervention so far. But then I want to ask with regards to the financial clearance. Please, is it going to be for those of our senior colleagues who completed last year, or those of us who are 5 months into our rotation?
Thank you very much. When the issues are understood this way, that people have completed and they've not gotten anything, and we are fixing it. Even if you demonstrate, Ghanaians will understand and they will know where it's coming from. And that's what I'm seeking to do. My dearness, those who have completed and those of you who are working, all those issues will be sorted out. We'll fix those ones. So everybody will not leave some of these things in a mess as we inherited. We'll clear them. Okay. So at this point, I will want to speak tree so that yebeto or how be brave. And now how we are yebeka ho asem yi eye anese for akachia ai ebinum ensanka wo no mode. But the tie ni say ye ba ye no in 2025 na abandada no afa anese for any midwives for 13,500 mpem du miensa ene ahanu na yentua obiara ka ndimra ye ba ban mu no na ba kompo ni ho a yetua ne ka ya poso mu nyina omo ye adwuma nti ye ba ye no ne enya sika mfa ntua omo ka adwenkyerɛ ba ye eye mienu adwenkyerɛ ne ba ko ne sɛ ye ni sika ye di betua omo ka nti ye ma omo nyina nkofie ni enkopa sika sɛ ne obi be ye adwuma ne yentua ne ka de ene ye ma omo nyina nkofie ni enkopa sika ni emetua omo ka ana ye enkopa sika ansa na ya frɛ omo mo ba be ye adwuma adwenkyerɛ ba ko e ba ye no adwenkyerɛ bie mu e ba ye ne sɛ dabi ye ma omo nya adwuma ni empe kwan e be fa so a ye betua omo ka eno nti si ye hwɛ ya emra ye ba ban mu foro no anesifo na bi ba bontin kra be kan sɛ omo ate sɛ ye beyi omo adi emi edi hu komo ema me kopie mu e o mra hye badwafie asɛmde a wo mu ni sɛ ye kan sɛ ye be fa adwenkyerɛ a ɛtɔ so mienu no ye be ma wono mu akɔso ayɛ adwuma ye mo mu nkofie efi sɛ ye ntumi mo mo nkɔka Anesefo a ɔmo awie sukuu ɔmo nya adwuma anya bebree na ɔmo wɔ fie no ho. Nti yɛhyɛ ahyɛ sɛ yɛbɛtu ho anamɔn. Yɛbɛsrɛ mo ne yɛaka sɛ yɛkaa sɛ yɛbɛtu ho anamɔn no yɛankɔ ankɔda. Ampa ne yɛmpa ne nua ne yɛmpa yɛtu ho anamɔn. Anamɔn ne yɛtu yɛ ne deɛ he na ɔmo yɛ 13,500 yɛtumi ɛma emu 10,000 bɛyɛ 10,000 yɛde ɔmo egu payroll ne so sɛ ɔmo nhyɛ aseɛ na ɔmo nyɛ akatua. 10,000 no emu 7,000 deɛ me ne okasa yi bosom biara ɔmo gye akatua. Nti asɛmbisa sɛ ɛdɛn na mo yɛ wɔ ho no deɛ yɛ wɔ ho ne sɛ out of the 13,000 sɛ a me ne mo kasa yi emu bɛyɛ 7,000 deɛ bosom biara ɔmo gye ɔmo akatua. Na aka bɛyɛ 6,500 6,500 deɛ kɔka yɛ nie sɛ wotie ya meka sɛ bɛyɛ 10,000 na ɛwɔ payroll no so 7,000 yɛtwi ɔmo ka ɛkyerɛ sɛ 3,000 bi ɛwɔ payroll no so ɛnso yɛntwi ɔmo ka. Nti ɔmo bɛka 3,500 na yɛmfa ɔmo nto payroll so koraa na akɔyɛ 6,500. Ɔmo ɛne yɛpɛ kwan a yɛbɛfa so a ɔmo nso yɛbɛyɛ dɛn yɛbɛtwi ɔmo ka. Na ɔhaw no na ɛnyɛ no nko a na yɛ bebree. Yɛwɔ adɔktafoɔ binom a ɔmo wie school a ɛsɛ yɛfɛ bibi housemanship na akɔyɛ sɛ mandatory national service no wowie a ɛwɔ sɛ wosom ɔman no na ɔmo allowance a ɛwɔ sɛ yɛde ma wɔ no aban dadaa no ampɛ ho asɛm amua a yɛbaeɛ na ɛka ɔhaw a ɛwɔ sɛ yɛtu ho anamɔn about 883 of these offices. Na kopa daroma yɛnya ho pomasibrɛ. Deɛ ɛtɔ so mmienu ɛyɛ adɔktafoɔ nkumaa bi a wɔnom nso wie ɔmo national service a ɛwɔ sɛ ɔmo yɛ adwuma a ɔmo ahyɛ adwuma ase ɛwɔ aban dadaa n'abrɛ so a ɔmo yɛ adwuma a ɛno nso na ɔmo ni clearance yɛntua a wɔnom ka a nansɛn ɔmo kaa sɛ ɔmo bɛkɔ strike ɛno nso nyame adaroma yɛtumi anya ne pomasibrɛ a yɛasɔw saa problem no. Woyi ɛno firi hɔ a yɛdi mu tintima yie paa ne sɛ ɛwɔ medical doctors bɛyɛ 800 a ɔmo nso awie school awie housemanship a ɔmo ti fie a ɛno nso nyame adaroma yɛnya tax clearance ama ɔmo a ɛno nso ɔmo bɛhyɛ adwuma ase. Wɔn nyinaa yɛ ɔhaw a yɛbɛto yɛ ɛne ɛkwan a yɛfa so a yɛnsi saa haw yi ano kwan. Ɔhaw no mu baako koraa di hɔ a yɛbaeɛ yi ɛne ɛbɛkreti saa ɔhaw. Nti Ghanafoɔ te ɔhaw n'ase na Ghanafoɔ ehu deɛ yɛfa ho a ɛbɛboa yɛn nyinaa ama obi ɛka ho asɛm a wɔhu sɛneɛ obesi aka asɛm nafa. Ɛnyɛ ɛno nko a Samre yɛwɔ anɛɛsefoɔ a ɔmo nso ɔmo yɛ rotation nurses ne allied health professionals ɛno nso nyame adaroma emu more than 17,000 so yɛnya clearance ɛde ama wɔn no. Yɛbaayɛ conditions of service a na aban dadaa no de ne nsa ahyɛ ase a yɛn implement mu baako koraa ɛno so ɛbɛyɛ asɛm ɛbɛda yɛ kom. Saa nneɛma bi sɛ mu ɛne ɛne sikasɛm aso yɛyɛ no ɛde ho nkitaho a ɔmo aboa yɛn efi sɛ ba nipa akatua nsɛm a sikasɛm aso yɛyɛ no na ɛdi mu tintima yie paa. Nyame adaroma saa nneɛma mabɔ so nyinaa no sikasɛm aso yɛyɛ wura atofɔsen ɔda no mene ne mmienu ɛde yɛn ntoma aba no ɛmi yɛnya ne nyinaa pomasibrɛ. Na mmom ɛnnɛ deɛ di mu tintima yie ne sɛ saa bɛyɛ 6,500 na yɛka ho asɛm sisi yi no aban kɛseɛ mu cabinet asi gyinaeɛ sɛ yɛmpɛ sika ne yɛmfa ntwi ɔmo nyinaa ɛka from November. Nti saa mmerɛ yi ɛno nso yɛnya ho pomasibrɛ a ɛno ho krataa ɛna ɛno nso ekura me ɛwɔ ha yi. Nti yɛbɛda mu nyinaa ase. Wei ɛnyɛ deɛ etwa toɔ. Yɛyɛ adwene sɛ yɛn complaini. Problems a yɛabɛto no, yɛbɛpɛ ne pum asibere. Na mmom, sɛ woanka a deɛ ɔbɛto yɛ a, woanhwɛ yi a wo a wokɔ ho no, yɛbɛhu sɛ saa problem wo na wo create yɛ. Nti yɛka wie a, yɛnka ne saa kwa, yɛbɛkyerɛ mo deɛ yɛayɛ, ɛne deɛ yɛyɛ, ɛne deɛ yɛbɛyɛ. Nti meda mo nyinaa ase na mede asi ha.